This is a get to complement the new age fashion. This mod will add electricity to Minecraft, the ability to produce and use it. And there will also be a new type of energy, heat, which can be transferred through pipes and used in other mechanisms from this mod. Let's figure it out. Let's get started. This mod slightly changes the generation. In the ordinary world, blocks of magnetite will appear, which we will then need for a dynamo, and torus ore, which serves as fuel for a nuclear reactor. Let's talk about the dynamo. The dynamo converts the kinetic energy of rotation into electricity, in our case, earth energy. As you have noticed, this is a multi-block design. It consists of 3 parts. The first is the rotor, what rotates, and it consists of coils. The second part is the stator, 12 blocks, which are located around each coil, creating a magnetic field. In our case, these are blocks of magnetite. And the third part is the converter unit, which will accumulate energy, which we will then extract. Putting on engineering glasses and looking at the coil of a working dynamo, you will see what its efficiency is and what kind of load it creates at the current speed of rotation that is fed to it. And looking at the converter unit, you will see how much energy it produces per second. And now let's talk about how to increase the energy output from your dynamo. The first way, apply more rotation speed to your dynamo. It will start to produce more energy, but it will create a greater load. And the second way, change the blocks that make up the stator. Instead of magnetite blocks, you can put the following blocks. Redstone magnet is a whiny magnet, this magnetite and non-serite magnet, which is the best. The enumeration was carried out in ascending order of magnetic strength and efficiency. And here is an example. Look at the difference in the characteristics of 3 dynamos of exactly the same size, which differ only in the stator blocks. And the third way to increase the power of the dynamo, namely, by increasing the length of the rotor and stator, putting more coils in a row sequentially, and also the stator blocks. And now interesting facts. You can replace the stator blocks with more powerful ones in series as they become available to you. At the same time, the machine will work, and its power will also grow. You can also put your dynamo vertically. This mod also has its own power transmission system with wires. To get started, you will need 2 electrical connectors. One is installed on the source, what produces energy, and the second on the consumer, what will be used. Then, take a coil of wires from this mod. There are only 4 different types of them, and they differ in the amount of energy that is transferred at a time. And click on one connector with it, and then on the second one, and you will establish a connection between them. The energy will already be transferred. And very important information, the author of this mod wrote on the 4G course that the wires from his mod are incompatible with other modifications and work only with the Ed Astra mod and mods from the Batarium line. And interesting facts, the maximum distance for connecting 2 connectors is 16 blocks. Otherwise, you will see the following message. Well, you can connect several wires at once with a connector. And of course, the wires can be laid through any blocks. I hope the author will fix it. Next, we will talk with you about energy chargers. So far, they can only charge some bars and diamonds in order to use them in further crafting. To start working with the charger, apply earth energy and rotation to it. Then, feed the items to it with a depot or conveyor belt. There are only 3 types of chargers, and they differ in the amount of energy stored in themselves and what they can transfer at a time. That is, the better, the faster charging will take place. Also, this mod adds electric motors that can create rotation by consuming earth energy. But these motors have their own characteristics. The first of them is that by right-clicking on them, you can disable or enable them. And in the same way, they can be turned off and on using a redstone signal. Calling out to the motor with a wrench, you will go to its settings menu, where you can choose which side will rotate and at what speed. And now we're going to talk to you about the production of heat, its storage, and why it is generally needed in this fashion. So, heat is a new kind of energy that is in this fashion. There are two ways to make it. The first method is solar panels that produce heat during a sunny day. They also work at night, but produce a little less. If we talk about panels, there are two types of them, ordinary and improved. They differ not only in the amount of heat that they produce at a time. And the second method of heat production is nuclear reactors. We will talk about them a little later. The heat itself is transmitted using heat pipes. I advise you to put on engineering glasses right away, so you will see more information about how much heat is currently in the pipe. And looking at the pipes with glasses, you will notice that the heat is transmitted with some delay, gradually, but also interesting facts about pipes. If you remove the source from the closed pipe system, the accumulated heat will be evenly distributed between all the pipes, and it will not decrease, because, as I understand it, there are no losses. I think it's worth adding them. For the sake of realism, well, the maximum amount of heat that your pipe can withstand is 10,000. Otherwise, it will just turn into a block of lava. I hope the author of this mod took into account that this mechanics can be used for personal purposes, because the exchange of 1 ingot of commodity for 1 bucket of lava is very profitable. Also in this fashion, there are heat pumps that collect all the heat at one point. For example, on the left, we have a closed system of pipes that are warmed up. They have an established temperature. Then, we will put one freestanding pipe and connect the two halves with a pump, the left and the right. The heat from the left part will pass to the right and concentrate specifically in this pipe. What a tip! Look at these arrows on the heat pump. They indicate the direction where the heat is supplied. And now let's talk about nuclear reactors. But first let's see how to make fuel for them. So you found thorium ore. Then you need to crush it in the crushing wheels, and with some probability, you will get a small piece of radioactive thorium. And yes, there is a special crafting recipe in this mod that will allow you to double the amount of thorium that you have. And then, there is a sequential assembly. We take this piece and send it to a mechanical press, then to an activator with an iron sheet, and then back to the mechanical press. As a result, we will get a fuel cell. Let's get started. To build a reactor, the following blocks are needed: at least 1 full inserter and a heat vent. Next, we will need the skin blocks, the actual case reactor or the eye reactor, and an unlimited number of reactor rods. That is, the more of them there are, the more heat will be produced. Reactor rod, and we will need some mechanisms for entering this fuel, funnels, sluices, or something else. For example, some pipes from other mods. Time to build. We will make the base 3 by 3 in size, using reactor sheaths or reactor glass. Then, we put the reactor core, full insider, and hit the end. Then, for the concert, I install a gateway to load fuel. As soon as you load it, the reactor core will start to glow, and with engineering glasses, you will see how much heat the core has accumulated. But keep in mind, if you have 24,000 units of heat, the rod will melt and turn into a very interesting block. And this block is called corium. It will burn through all the blocks that are located under it, sinking lower and lower until it freezes, turning into a frozen corium. By the way, both of these blocks produce radiation around them, causing damage to all living things. Also, the radiation is produced by the nuclear rods themselves during the operation of the reactor. And to protect yourself from radiation, you can equip a nuclear rod with a reactor vessel or reactor glass. Then radiation will not affect you. Or another option, put on a leather armor, and it will protect you from the effects of radiation from the reactor or corium. Well, let's say a few words about heat vent. This unit is needed in order to connect heat pipes to it and remove the accumulated heat from the reactor rods to where you need it. And a couple of facts about reactors. Fact number 1. The stir is capable of powering up to 32 reactor rods that are arranged in a row, but it does not power those that are vertically, even if they are inside a multi-structure. Therefore, for each new layer, you will need an additional full inserter. And the second fact, the heat from the working nuclear rods can be transferred to other nuclear rods, even if they are not switched on. And one more fact, If you try to destroy a reactor core that is working and heated at the moment, an explosion will occur, and corium will form after it. And now let's talk about how we can use the heat that we have learned to extract. For example, thermal boilers, if you apply heat to them, they will work like flash burners, heating up your steam boiler. The more heat you give him, the higher the temperature of your steam boiler will be. And I must say right away, the boiler is not heating the vats that stand under the mechanical mixer. It won't work that way. And having accumulated 10,000 units of heat, the boiler will melt. And now we're going to talk to you about the Stirling engine, a new source of rotation that runs on heat. This unit can be installed next to any blocks through which heat flows. It is not necessary to put it on top of the pipes. For every second of its operation at maximum power, it consumes 100 units of heat, producing 512 available loads. But be careful, friends, if it accumulates more than 6,000 units of heat, it will melt. And on this we will say goodbye, friends. I advise you to subscribe, because there are many interesting videos on Minecraft on my channel.